Hey guys, welcome to my second video. This is another differential equation. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So it looks like we have y to the fourth derivative plus y double prime equals 0. And we have these given conditions right here. So generally how we want to approach something like this is we'll set m to the fourth plus m squared equals 0. Now based on this we know that we can factor the m squared out, and setting both equal to 0, it looks like we have so it looks like we'll have an imaginary number. Oops. Okay. Now let's go ahead and find our y. Y equals c1 e to the 0x plus c2x e to the 0x. And the reason why we're doing x e to the 0x is because whenever you have a repeating, the second term will always have that x multiplied into it. So the first one, as you can see, is 0. They're both 0, so they'll both have a 0. But because it's repeating, we're adding that x. Now, we also have this imaginary number, but we also know that there's an implied 1 right here. So what we'll do is plus c3 cosine x plus c4 sine x. And now say for instance if this was like a 2 or something. So like if it was like m equals plus or minus 2i, then rather than this being c3 cosine x, it would be c3 cosine 3x. So not 3x, 2x. So basically you would just have that coefficient inside here, and you're basically just ignoring that I, which is the imaginary number. We're just taking the real number. Okay. So now from here, because we have these given conditions, we're going to have to find the derivatives, and it looks like we're going to have to find the third derivative. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this. So y prime equals, well, let's clean this up a little bit. Anything to the 0 power is just 1, so it'd just be c1. Now this is x c2. Let's make this c2x plus c3 cosine x plus c4 sine x. All right. Now let's take the derivative. That's just a constant, so it's 0. That would be c2. The derivative of cosine is negative sine, so that would be negative c3. Well, that didn't look. c3 sine x. Derivative of sine is cosine, so cosine x. Okay, so now let's take the second derivative. C2 is a constant. Taking the derivative of a constant is 0. Taking the derivative of sine is cosine, so it'd be negative c3 cosine x minus c4 sine x, because derivative of cosine is negative sine. Triple prime. Derivative of cosine is negative sine, so we're going to have c3 sine x minus c4 cosine x. Okay. Now let's see. Let's go ahead and plug in our given conditions, which is this right here. Let me see if I can just oh, whoops. There we go. All right. So now let's just go ahead and plug these in. Y0 is 0, so that would be 0 equals C1 plus C2, 0. Cosine is 0. Okay, well, anything multiplied by 0 is just 0. Cosine of 0 is 1. Sine of 0 is 0. So basically what we have is 0 equals C1 plus C3. Okay. Now for the second derivative, we have y prime of 0 equals 0. Okay. So that is 0 equals C2 minus C3 sine 0 plus C4. Oops. Cosine of 0. Well, again, sine of 0 goes to 0. That goes to 1. C2 plus C4. Now let's go to the y prime of 0 equals 1. So that would be 1 equals negative C3 cosine of 0 minus C4 sine of 0. Again, just 1, 0. Okay, well that implies that C3 equals negative 1. And now lastly, y prime of 0 equals 1. We're going to plug that into here. 1 equals C3 sine 0 minus C4. Oops. So again, that's just going to 0. That will go to 1. So then we get 1 equals negative C4, which implies that C4 equals negative 1. So now we have 1, 2. We found C3 and C4. Let's see if we can plug those in and find C1, C3, and C2, C4. So let's see. If we go, let's see, C1 equals negative C3, and C2 equals negative C4, and that would mean that C1 equals negative C3, which we found to be negative 1 right here, which means that is positive 1, and C2 equals negative C4, which is negative 1, which is right here. Again, positive 1. Okay. So now we can go ahead and write the solution, basically plugging in C1, C2, C3, C4, which are constants, into this equation right here. So let's see if I can just snag this out real quick. Plug it in right here. Now, so now let's see, C1 equals 1, so it's 1, C2 equaled 1, so we could just leave it as x. C3 equaled -1, so I guess that would be negative cosine x. And C4 equals -1, so that would be negative sine x. So this right here is our solution. Okay, guys. I hope that helped. I know it was a little bit messy, but I'm hoping that you guys can go through that pretty easily. There's not really much to it. I guess the main thing is really just setting these up, finding your m's, plugging it into your y equation, and then solving for C1, C2, C3, and C4 because we have these given conditions, which allows us to solve for those constants. But yeah, hope this helped. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave comments. All right.